I'm going to record on this computer. Okay, so we're recording now, so we're live now.
We are?
Yep.
Okay, hooray.
All right. So do you want to be host or shall I be host?
Well, I'll be host if you want.
You start and I'll follow up. How's that sound?
Okay, well.
Ladies first, as we say.
Whilst we do that, I'm going to check if we're live on Facebook and then we know.
Okay. Right.
So we love each other.
We do.
And we're both pretty, I think, connected with the idea of understanding more about this weird and wonderful life and what it has to offer us.
Yep.
And what we can do to get out of our own way and be better people, happier,
yep.
more abundant, healthy, wealthy, wise, all that.
Yep.
And you had the idea that perhaps we put our minds together and share with other people our perspectives, our thoughts, me as a clinician, psychologist, you as a, well, general master of the universe. And perhaps if we can get on live, then we can ask questions and have people ask us questions and so on.
Yeah, I think we're still missing. Thank you, honey. That was a gorgeous introduction. So you're Poppy Sprague and I'm Lou Martin. And
yes.
we're all pulling our selves up by our bootstraps these days to get to the front lines of this paradigm shift. We're not on Facebook here at the moment, just to let you know. So we'll keep working on that. But anyway, let's just go ahead and do a thing here. We've known each other for years and we've done a lot of great work together, and we get to support each other in being teachers and, way showers on this ship of shifting seas. And it certainly is the time for a lot more connection, community, consciousness, support, love, joy, happiness, hope. While people are really dealing with, clearly the biggest shift of our lives, the biggest challenge of our lives, I'd say, in many ways.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Well, I was saying yesterday, and maybe we can unpack this together, is it seems to me there's three major camps of response really to this period of time, notwithstanding honestly, seems to me we're collectively having a scary, confronting, isolative in some ways experience, which is everybody's reality every day to differing degrees in different ways.
Yes, we've just turned up the volume, haven't we? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And as I see it,
well said.
Three responses really that we're having is, there are some, I won't speak for you, but I feel I'm attached to that kind of way of being, which is we're good, whatever, and I could go into that a bit more about one of the universal laws about accepting the whole.
Yeah.
That you can't have one without the other and so on.
Yeah.
And I think, it's fairly confronting for people that don't want to hear it, but I know that to be at peace, even in times of, war in whatever kind of a way,
sure,
it really comes from within.
Yes.
And that when I've talked to people, myself included, who've been incarcerated, what they'll often say is, I found freedom behind bars within myself.
Right.
So it seems to me those people have done and are doing, daily student of Life for Life, a lot of work on security and insecurity within themselves and so on and so on.
Yes.
And then there's people who are, and I think there's a lot, I mean, you were talking about this years ago, the global uprising of consciousness.
Yeah.
Where people are realizing through crisis or overwhelm or depletion that the way we are working or the way they're working doing life doesn't fulfill them. And the crisis comes. Existential, a crisis of existence or a depression or a bankruptcy or a relationship or whatever.
Yeah.
And then through that is a kind of, my experience, I've said it before, when I cracked, literally, I almost heard the noise of literally my internal,
Yeah.
it just was, I wasn't able to keep it together anymore. And as a therapist, what I know is it really isn't a good idea to try and keep it together.
Well, right.
Because
Surrender and release, we say, yeah?
exactly,
Yeah.
keeping it together is depressing. So then there's people in that camp kind of doing the exploration, you know, getting mud and dusty and bloody in public, as Teddy Roosevelt says.
Okay.
And then there are the people who are freaking out,
Right.
really, really scared. And equally within that, and I think this is part of it, and then I'll shut up.
You're fine. You're doing great.
A lot of people are very frightened and didn't necessarily know it consciously of their own self and being in their own space and being with themselves and quiet. And, you know, it's kind of, Tony Robbins, of course, comes to mind, where he says we focus on the little things, not that these are little things, but the sort of physical things, so that we don't have to focus on the bigger things that matter.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, in many ways, it can be convenient for us to push and shove about the toilet roll or the hand, whatever, so that we're not so attentive to the fact that being alone or isolating, which is always ironic because we do it psychically anyway, is so scary.
Yes.
So I was talking to a lovely lady yesterday, and she was saying, good Lord, wow, maybe I'm getting what I asked for, essentially, because she feels very lonely in her relationship and very lonely in her career. And now she's isolated at home, and the whole thing is confronting her whole way of being, because she's a do, busy, help person.
Right.
And she would, it's okay to say this, because this is what we were talking about. Yeah. She does that to protect herself from not being given to, because her fear is nobody loves her. So she give. So this whole experience, and I think this is millions of people, is really confronting in terms of saying, you have to focus on you. Yeah. Yeah. And and how are you in the process of having things change, uncertainty, but also in the process of having to be, or being left with the opportunity to be more human and ironically more connected from a physically distanced place. Yeah. So I see it as, you know, we're all good. It's unpleasant. Yes, we will be okay. Even if there's death, we're good. We're okay in death. Yeah. And then there is help. Okay, fine. I'll try it and I'll do it. Student of life every day. And then there's people running in the other direction away from, which splits off the good and bad, if that makes sense. Sure. One of the guys from ASM today, she said is it like yin and yang? In that yin and yang is one whole, and you cannot have one without the other. As opposed to there's, I want more and I want it back the way it was, or I want to feel good and secure and not this. And, you know, when we sort of resist something that's a whole thing, like ourselves, I don't like the part of me that isn't intelligent enough or whatever, and we resist that, there's not an accepting of it, so we can't have peace with it. That's my sense anyway. Yes. Well, there's Jesus, you know, it's a pity you have no ideas, honey, yeah? Thoughtful is doesn't begin to describe you, my friend. That was all, you know, so there's so much there, Poppy. I mean, this is what my guides call clash of the paradigms. And it is, you know, this polarization, as you said, between fear and faith, you know, and those of us that have been doing this inner journey spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, you know, incarcerated or out in the wide world. You said the magic word for me, which a couple of them. One is definitely peace, because, you know, as the Rudyard Kipling says, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, then you're valuable in a crisis. And that's what we're all being challenged to do. And the other word there that really rang for me is fulfillment. And it's true. You know, there's the quote from Thoreau, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And, you know, we have definitely seen decades of people working in jobs they hate with people they don't necessarily get on with, for employers that they resent, and, you know, longer hours and shorter pay and more stress and bigger bills and less
pleasure and more addiction and more suicide and more cancer and more heart disease and more alcoholism and on and on and on and on. So yeah, we've hit the tipping point, obviously. And, you know, whether this is man-made or cooked up in a lab, it clearly speaks to the shadow of humanity that needs to confront all of these things that are so out of balance in us, because every one of us either invited or allowed this into our experience. So, you know, the extra credit question is why, what is the gift of this? You know, what is the opportunity for growth and healing and awakening that I couldn't allow into my life in an easier way, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love, you know, what you and others are seeing here. As I said, I got to be on with two other lovely young ladies from England today, and talking with a medical doctor and another life coach on this site that's come together, which I'll send you the link of so we can post that for people as well. A support group about dealing with all this. You know, hope is the other word that is really important, because we really have never experienced anything like this outside of a full-on war. And of course, we know that we've not had to survive one of those since the 1940s in the world in the same way. So here are the questions that it brings up to my mind, and then I'll give it back to you. What is my relationship to my own life? What is my relationship to my life in this world, in society in general, and every other human being? And what is my relationship to the resources of life, Mother Earth, the food on my plate, the water in my tap and shower, and how all of this is valued or devalued? So, you know, I think we're going to be planting gardens and sewing our own clothes and writing a lot of books and probably having a lot of exciting sexual experiences, while we also, you know, decide these deeper questions, you know, how, so, you know, as you said, for me, I've known that we're a spiritual being having a human experience for 30 plus years now. So, you know, in the back of my mind, I've known that there would be something that would happen that would begin to give us permission to look in a deeper part of ourselves. And I think this is it.
Yeah, I'm very much with you, Lou. And you know, I think if we come down to basics, it's a choice point that's very, what's that word? Confronting doesn't even cut it, you know.
It's good though. It's yeah. It demands confrontation. There's no escape with it, is there?
Yeah, and it's even more sort of something than that. There's a word, it will come to me if it's important. But
all right.
Are we going to be conscious or not conscious? And it's kind of, you know, if it's, I don't know, I put something on my Facebook page the other day and somebody said, you know, I thought this was a place of peace and I like what you write, but it was a political thing. And I said, as lovingly as I could, thank you for being so, you know,
yeah,
whatever it was that I said, you know, because he genuinely was kind in his objection.
Right.
I said, however, there comes a time in my mind where we cannot be unconscious anymore, which is why I posted it. Yeah. And, you know, whatever. But
I'm with you that politics and consciousness are need to go together. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I see this life and people as the whole, it's all the same stuff in terms of, if I think about psychotherapy or emotional healing or physical healing, there are people who want to be conscious or are forced to be, and then that's a choice point.
Right.
And there are people who run from it and live in the shadow, you know, making people like me bad because I post something that is about, you know, look at what we're condoning in politics or whatever. And I feel for people, because if I take this as an example, it's the same with being conscious about what's going on in the world, conscious about our spending, conscious about what we choose to turn a blind eye to, and so on.
Yeah.
Is to say, if I look at this from a psychotherapeutic place, which to me, again, I don't know if it makes sense, but to me, it's all the same stuff, is if I, what you're saying about, I don't know, being a good thing to talk about your feelings or go into therapy or do some channeling work, or you know. And if I'm an objector, an unconscious objector in that situation, and I say, well, you don't need to do that, and I don't need help, and I don't have to talk to anybody about it, and you know, just pay the bills and shut up, you know, you're navel gazing.
Yes, get on with it,
So,
this day is the phrase.
yeah, that suppression, I really feel for that stance that anybody has, because I've been there, which basically says, as I see it, the idea of opening up to another idea, that there's other rooms in this house that I inhabit, suggests that I might learn something I don't want to learn, so I'm going to say it's not there.
Well, yes, that's right. That's what we all have: resistance and fear and judgment and pain. Pain keeps us, you know, struggling with that. But healing, I just want to add to what you're saying. It's gorgeous. Healing opens us up and lets go of the pain and the fear.
Yeah, sure. But we know that because we've gone in those doors, right?
Yes,
we've opened the doors. People who haven't don't know that.
Kicking and screaming like everyone else does, you know, and the whole world's now kicking and screaming. Exactly.
But unless you go to that threshold of, you know, change, as Robert Bly would say, you don't know that. So it serves us more to hate the idea, or call people stupid, or shame people into silence, or whatever.
Yes.
And so, you know, in my mind, this is why all kinds of stuff is happening. But I was thinking about, you know, Chinese and Asians and old people being beaten in the street and so on during this time, primarily because, you know, people like the president of the US says, you know, the Chinese virus and so on. To me, that level of denial and hatred and so on says something very powerful about some people's complete lockdown, ironically, of possibility that we're all part of this, where it's all at our hand, you know. It's not outside of us, it's within us. Like you're saying, is, you know, what is the relationship I have between me and me, and between my environment and me, and between the world and the, you know, physical world and me, and then what is the relationship between me and whatever the hell is in charge of this whole deal.
Sure.
And I really feel for people who are so shut down and protesting. I really feel for, because I are so identified, but such hatred comes from that place. And that's what's very sad.
Yes, that's right. I haven't heard of older people being beaten, you know. Okay, well.
Chinese people.
I see.
You know, spat at and stuff.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, we hate what we fear, and we fear what we don't understand. And like you're saying here, we've been conditioned into tribalism and classism and racism and sexism and all of these, you know, reptilian brain kind of responses, you know, Orwellian, you know, hate sessions where they're shouting at the screen and things like that. You know, it's extremely, the good news is, and there is good news about all of this, is, you know, the virus is like a metaphor. It is an illness in consciousness that is coming to the surface because there is so much fear and denial in the world, and so much alienation and separation from ourselves and each other and life. So it is like, you know, bringing all of that out and saying, look, this will not stand. My guides say we come to this world for one purpose, and that's to make peace with change. And so we can do that when we learn to live from the inside out with a sense of compassion and responsibility and tolerance and empathy and understanding. But for people whose hearts are closed in pain and fear and hatred, they are just, you know, in the mind-body, you know, program, and it's extremely unsustainable. So, you know, as you were saying, I mean, I've known for decades that this something like this was on the horizon, and never imagined it would come in this way, of course. And even honestly, you know, the last 6 months, I've said many times, God, it feels just so you know, myself and other teachers, we just seem to be confronting the darkest part of our experience, you know, over and over again.
Yeah.
Why is this so? And now we kind of see why. So,
Yeah.
you know, as you said, what crisis does is it throws us back into ourselves. When we reach out to life and life does not embrace us in the way we expect to be received, we get thrown back into ourselves. And we've
Yeah.
all done these journeys with the wounded inner child and healing the wounds. And, you know, I love myself, I accept myself, I forgive myself, I set myself free. The inner dialogue that we keep alive in our minds is the vibration and the program that we're putting out into the world. So what I see is really being called for here is, you know, we're all being asked to go on retreat. We're all being
Yeah.
sent to our rooms without our supper for a while,
Yeah.
you know?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Right? And the universe is going, I think you're going to come up with some better ways to live on this planet at the end of this. But even
Or not.
yes, well, I believe that we will. But even you know, our health, dealing with the virus and dealing with illness and the systems becoming overwhelmed and sickness and death and all that, we personally can continue to raise our own vibrations and stay out of drama, chaos, confusion, overwhelm. Our ability to come to peace of mind, you know, or peace of heart is pricelessly important. The quote from my guides yesterday, Poppy, was, peace is your new superpower.
Yeah.
So if we can attain, sustain, and maintain our own inner peace and bring some of that out into the world where, as you say, people are just going like this with all the changes, then, you know, we're going to move through this quickly and elegantly, this chapter. I believe that.
Yeah. I love that. The idea is so, I mean, what would that be? A psychodynamic kind of interpretation with being sent to our rooms. I've got two thoughts in mind, and one, I mean, you by all means, you feel it. I've got one thought to explore, which is quite confronting and sort of
good. Bring it on.
Some people will hate it.
Sure.
And then just to say, Neil Donald Walsh came to mind.
Yeah, great teacher. Yeah.
I saw, it was a documentary because there was an actor. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes,
and he was at the end talking about it.
Yes,
and
Conversations with God, his book. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking about the breakthrough where, you know, he's in his space screaming at God saying, or at least this is how I remember it, why? And what he heard was, do you want the answer?
Right. Or are you just venting?
Exactly.
Yes.
And that, so when I say or not, you know, when we go to our rooms and we'll come out sort of going, oh, hello, came up with another plan. Yeah, some people won't, of course. Some people will come out with, you know, that was unpleasant, or flipping out, the toilet roll cost has gone up, that's not good enough, or oh well, you know, I suppose my boss is still going to be, you know, and back to life as usual. And then in my mind, then you've been calling it, a lot of people have been calling it for a very long time, but I remember specifically the last few years with you, is the majority, I feel, is going to, I mean, it's just I don't know what, an about turn that's going to happen. And I'm thinking about veganism and, you know, just consciousness of, maybe I am the common denominator in the fact that people aren't liking me right now, but people are actually wanting to explore what is going on.
Sure.
And I see this with, you know, I've been watching very closely Harvey Weinstein and what's been going on there. And, you know, obviously I've been in the States for the last 3.5 years. So with the president and stuff, and there's so many edges that are so powerfully part of the whole that it's like I said to the guy on my page who wasn't happy with my post, is I said, you know, there's only a certain amount of blindness we can have until it's just not possible to maintain it anymore.
That's where
to
we're at.
turn.
That's exactly where we're at. We're at the
Yeah.
turning point. We're at the tipping point. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see, you're saying it beautifully, hon. I mean, there's a lot of shadow in this world, and there's a lot of unconsciousness here. And but it is the land of free will, and we do have a choice. And I love Neil. I've read many of his books. I got to see him in person a couple times. He's a wonderful teacher.
Oh, wow.
Conversations with God are a brilliant resource for this time. The quote from that book, which comes to mind from God, is he says, it's very simple, folks. You either go within or you go without. And that sort of was in my head today, because that's what I keep that's what keeps ringing my bell is, as you said it, am I creating my world? Yes. You really are creating your own reality. You really are some part of this world that you're experiencing. So are you happy with the way it's working? And if not, what would you like to change in it? And how can you be the change that you want to see in the world, as Gandhi said? So it's, someone asked a wise master one time, what about the others? And he said, there are no others.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the only way. That's the only way that we come through a planetary healing crisis, which is exactly what this is, where every one of us has impact and affect and interconnectedness with each other in a whole deeper way. And, what my teachers have said is this is the beginning of the fifth dimension. And this is the beginning of thoughts manifesting as experience through vibration with greater power and greater clarity and with greater benefit for all than we've ever believed possible. The price of that freedom and that joy in bringing heaven to earth is we have to, like you're saying, let go of our pain and our fear and our judgments and our shadow, our denial and our resistance. So my guides say there's 3 levels to the dance every day. We're invited, we're challenged, and we're required to know and honor our spiritual nature. When life is easy, we are answering the invitation and everything's good. When life becomes difficult, we haven't answered the inner guidance of our heart, soul, and spirit. So that's why there are challenges. When we haven't met our challenges, then we get to dance with crisis. And, crisis comes and goes in everyone's life. This is the heart-opening experience of our lifetime. And it's also the spiritual awakening experience. So why are kids and younger people not being so affected in general? Because they're at inherently a higher vibration. The rest of us, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we're in the middle of all this. And then people that are older, they've worked through a lot of denser energies over the last 70, 80 years on this planet. We're all deciding, can we adjust to and adapt to this new, more intimate and more responsive reality where there isn't this illusion of separation any longer?
Yeah. My head was down because I was actually taking notes.
That's great. I'm thrilled.
So again, I have this other thought in my mind, but what I was also thinking is, be cool if, Russell Brand or somebody that a lot of people are listening to talks to us in this time about God. And what I mean by that is, it seems it could be a really perfect time for, from what I understand anyway, for people to truly understand what that word means and can mean, as opposed to it being about religion.
Sure.
Because it was only through my own crisis that I got to understand that God isn't about religion.
Right.
Or it can be, but it's not just one way of looking at it. So
right.
I know that, so much of this time can be, oh God, and am I bad because I didn't know God? And is there a way to find God? And all of that kind of stuff. And then there are kind of resistance to that says, I can't go anywhere near spirituality because God is there and so is religion. And it's all in one thing. So either I'm on my own with my ego and my fear, or I'm kind of in there with the woo-woo people who are all religious, and that it's not seen as there's so many different sort of classrooms within the embracing of learning, if that makes sense.
Sure. Well, I live for these questions, my friend. So let me take a swing at that if I can. Yeah, because that's very, very juicy. I mean, you're again, Poppy. It's just you're such a joy and a delight, and I just adore you, and I love hanging out with you. Yeah, because you're so deep and thoughtful, hun, and you know you're always looking for you know your truth and how to help other people find their truth. You know, and I really appreciate that so deeply.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, I've told the story many times. 33 years ago, I was in meditation. I had a spiritual awakening. The experience was just in that time was just guiding me to open my heart, open my heart, open my heart. So there wasn't any name. There wasn't any, you know, white robed figure with a long beard and a staff. You know, it was just my inner guidance saying, open your heart. When I did that sufficiently, this heat at the base of my spine opened up and I had like a bolt of energy shoot out through the top of my head. And I felt this orgasmic, unconditionally loving expansion. And I was in an altered state for like the next week, basically. And so that was such answered prayer because like you're saying, it gave me back that personal relationship to the universe that I'd been seeking, you know, my whole life up until then, the first 30 years of my life. So there's nothing more intimate than everyone's experience with God, source, spirit. It doesn't matter what we call it. It's just, you know, and there is not any judgment towards us from God, source, spirit. It is the deepest part of ourself. It is perfect peace and unconditional love. And you know, the spiritual practices that I use and that I teach and recommend to everyone every day is meditate, pray, write in a journal, and find and follow your heart, whatever that means to you, as often as you can. Follow your inspiration, find your inspiration. You know, find what you're excited about and seek to be of service to other people as much as you possibly can. And all of those things have given me the opportunity to free myself from feeling, you know, just neurotic and self-obsessed and narcissistic and burdened with, you know, the problems of being me in the world and all that. Excuse me. And so, you know, this is the opportunity for us to really listen to our hearts, you know, in all this time that we have on our own. And thank God for the internet and that we can communicate to the whole wide world and do these group prayers and group meditations and have these chats, you know, and do the channeling class, a group that you and I are doing that's on weeknights at 8 p.m. so far, and it'll be on again tonight at 8 p.m. On my Facebook page, Lightheart 2012. So anyway, I got all that said. It's the most personal. It's the most personal thing in the universe. And the question my guides say is it's very simple. How good can you stand it? How much love will you give to yourself? How much will you believe in this gift of life? How much love will you share with other people in the world? And you know, anything that helps us to open our hearts and become closer and care more is not only helpful for life here, but it's what we carry with us when we leave this life. And to come back to Neil, you know, he did in his desperation ask for help, and God did absolutely show up for him. And I've no doubt that we're going to hear these stories all over the world during this time, and people are going to be demonstrating miraculous abilities and tuning into their inherent spiritual genius for creativity and inspiration and healing. So, you know, this is the beginning of a whole new age, and we cannot go back. We will not go back. The past is ending. The future is calling to us. We need to listen to, trust, and follow our hearts, and share our highest vision with the world and see what changes.
And I think in there as well, and it seems to me we're doing our part, but maybe even between us we could come up with something that talks to this more as well.
Sure. We're just getting started.
People who, and I mean more broadly as a thing.
Yeah.
I saw Summer posted something the other day, and it said, check in with us extroverts, we're not doing well. And I was thinking about extroverts, because of course they want to connect and, you know, people, whereas some people, and you wouldn't know it, you know, I'm very introverted. People exhaust the hell out of me. I like to just go and recover from being around people.
We all need that. We all need that.
You know, so if I think about this one client that is on my mind, is she wouldn't know without your help, my help, people who think similarly to us, our help, that her fear and discomfort with being inside the house at the moment on her own is the doors of breakthrough, basically, for her in lots of different ways.
Right.
So for me, there will be millions of people to varying degrees, if I put my kind of clinical hat on for a minute, who knows where it goes, whether it, you know, people even present to, you know, mental health professionals with this, but a lot of people who at the very least within their own mind and their own physical space will be, this is so terrible, and I don't know how to cope, and just overwhelmed. Do you remember when I said to you once, I was describing the depression that I had, and I was saying it's like, you know, being out in space, free floating on my own, and it was petrifying, and you were like, yeah, how's that working for you to get really super explanatory with that wonderful experience, right? So what I would love, it's kind of like if we had a Pied Piper thing to talk to those kind of people, to be able to say, to be able to normalize it, to say, you know, when we run from ourselves and you're positioned to be with yourself, there's going to be some madness and badness and discomfort, and you're not going mad. It's just confronting, and that's okay. And there will be millions like you.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of people will pathologize themselves and or not even think about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, this is true. I mean, honestly, I've been saying the world is going to go through what we've gone through.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Sure. And that is, you know, that we have had to learn how to make peace with our shadow, with our fears, with the dark night of the soul, with unbearable and unendurable pain and fear and loneliness and despair. You know, that's the price of admission. That's the price of admission for being human. The good news is, honestly, that there's never been a time where we have had more resources and reminders from Neil Walsh and you and me and a thousand other people that everyone could name and knows and is stepping into themselves, becoming their own wisest teacher and guru. You know, that we can listen to, trust, and follow our inner wisdom, our truth, and we can live by that, and we can model that and share that with others, and say, this works for me. It might work for you. You know, and it's very humble and it's very simple, and it's just you know, being that light in the darkness. You know, shine your light and share your love is the quote from my guides. And the more we do that, the more people will look away from the darkness and say, oh, maybe there is another way, and maybe I can learn how to live this other way. And we're not teaching anyone anything. We're just bringing them back to themselves and saying, just listen to your deepest truth. God's inside of all of us, or there is no God. And of course, there is a God. That's what life is about. Free will says at some point, boys and girls, you're going to remember what this is really about, and you're going to be glad you came here.
Yes. And that I imagine for a lot of people is just whatever the word would be, too.
Well, it's imminent. I'll tell you what, it's imminent. It's imminent. It's around the corner. You know, the moment we let go of our resistance. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I imagine as well, though, to a lot of people that would make no sense whatsoever.
Right. So that's where I say the heart knows what the mind struggles to believe. And you see all the you know, the emperor has, you talked about the Pied Piper, the emperor has no clothes, and you know, there's a fool for you know, when the small man creates a long shadow, the twilight is near. You know, we're seeing all the cracks in our consciousness through lack of leadership and the need for true leadership, lack of honesty and the need for true integrity and responsibility, corruption versus selflessness, all these reflections of our consciousness are out there to be seen, and we're all going, well, will this help me? Will this save me? Will this fix me? Will this take care of me and my family? So, everyone is absolutely searching their souls in unprecedented ways right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. If you listen deeply, you can hear your wisdom. Yeah.
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 It won't feel good for a lot of us because we don't like change. Well, and we have to have certainty.
Right. So this is maybe we'll come down the home stretch here. This is the quote. My guides say the difference between truth and fantasy is you can believe a fantasy forever and it will not change your experience. The moment you let truth into the conversation, real change begins to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter how comfortable our fantasies are, truth is better than our fantasies.
Yeah. And there was something that you said on when you were teaching the other night at your 8 p.m. meetings that you're doing every day. Got that in there as well.
Yes, 2 plugs.
I've repeated it again and again ever since, which is, I was very moved by just some lovely things people are doing here locally, and I was moved. And you said,
yeah,
we like that. We like being moved. We like tears. We like emotion because that means your heart is involved.
Your heart is opening, sweetheart. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And there are so many people, still, even now I catch people, in my company saying, oh, I'm sorry when they're crying. And I'm like, oh, if you can't cry in the presence of a therapist, we are seriously in some trouble.
Well,
me too.
Bless them. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting the message out more widely in this process of, if you're moved, we'll all have mixed feelings about everything we do anyway.
Sure. Well,
but that idea to romanticize it, to say, actually, your way of being, if it opens up the most intelligent organ in your body because you're connected with it, which means you connect with other people, well, let's do more of that.
Oh, yes, 100%. Honestly, yeah, there's nothing more fun than healing. Yeah.
It can be a lot of fun. It can be very funny.
It is because the tears that begin in sorrow end in joy. It's what we deny within us that comes at us as fate. We, relax, nothing is in control. This is the affirmation I like recently. Everything's relax, everything's out of control. Don't panic, just wash your hands. Don't panic, just listen to Bruce Springsteen. We've all seen those out there. Have a laugh. The tears lead to laughter, lead to freedom. Our heart. So 70,000 years ago, approximately, give or take, different historians' view of things, there was this civilization in the world, and it was called Atlantis. And Atlantis became too in love with its technology and too separate from its spirituality. And so in one version of reality, of which there are many, we created an Atlantis that destroyed itself through its own misuse of technology and consciousness. And that created the fall from grace that they talk about in the Bible. And when that happened, we shut down our right brain and we closed our heart chakra. And that moved the goddess energy out of our consciousness for all of this time. So what we have been doing for thousands of years, this is the Yuga cycle of the Hindus and many other teachers. All the indigenous cultures have spoken about this, the Mayans, the Hopi, the Lakota, etc., saying you're going to come into a time of purification where all of your illusions are going to be stripped away from you. And you're going to be naked and feel very alone. And that is going to help you reconnect to Mother Earth and the Great Spirit. And that is what is happening, my friends, in simple version here. And will we, get through this? Humanity will get through this because humanity is a part of Mother Earth. We're the children of this earth. We're not a cancer on this planet. She does amazing, miraculous, magical things every day to take care of us all. And she does an amazing job of that. It's not a problem for her to look after us. But us looking after ourselves and each other, that we have really had some problems with. So that's what we're being asked to take on in this time. Change our relationship to each other.
And if we take that perspective, that's the gestalt, right?
Yes, that's the big picture as I understand.
Rather than, you know, if that was the sort of phase one of lockdown, this one would be the heart's open, the consciousness opens. There isn't that reactive, oh, it's not working well, quick, suppress. Would be, it's not working well, or what happened then? And that's the gestalt, you know?
Right.
And that would be the universal law of polarity that says everything has a dual.
Yes. Within that, though, that's right. That's well said. You know, the yin and the yang, you know, and the circle, but within each, there's the opposite of the other as well. And so that's polarity. But so in the dance between the feminine and masculine, between the heart and the mind, so my guides say, you have a mind and a body. You are your soul and spirit. And you see, in a healing crisis, not just a financial crisis, but a healing crisis, you have to eventually get back to, why am I, as a spiritual being, having this human experience? Or better said, is there something in me and in life that I don't know about, the knowing of which can change my relationship to this crisis? And my personal sense is, we're not going to solve this virus just with medicine and just with some pill or some shot. We are going to find it in us to believe in our worth as spiritual human beings, to raise the vibration beyond this, above this, and collectively move past this, so that we are in our power again. The biggest vacuum in our lives has been our discomfort and confusion and victimization around what is power, who has it, and how can I have more of it? So we're going to be taking our power back in new and wondrous ways. That's how we get through a crisis.
So can you explain this, which I imagine that people don't want to hear it and don't like it and don't understand it, and it sounds weird.
Well, weird is my middle name, so now it's getting exciting, yes.
Yeah, well, when you say, because you say it a lot, take my power back.
Yeah.
My sense is a lot of people who aren't in this field don't feel comfortable with that, probably because it's so poignant and apt. But can you break it down what that means?
Sure, that's a great question. I mean, the way I live it and the way I understand it is power comes through trust. And like, if we trust people to take care of us, then we're giving them that power. If we trust our leaders to look after us, we're giving them that power. They're in those positions of leadership because we invest that power in them, right? And when that doesn't feel right, then we say, no, you're not trustworthy. This is not safe. I have to take that power back and find someone who is trustworthy, or another way to get my needs met. The simplest way to say it is, trust is our connection to our deepest truth. And when we trust each other, we're basically extending our perception of truth in our relationship back and forth. Trust is earned, trust is built, trust is broken, it's rebuilt, sometimes it's abandoned. It just depends on the circumstance. But what power is, the two different definitions. Lazarus, my teacher, says power is your willingness and ability to act. They put it in a very masculine way. My guides say power is your connection to the deepest part of yourself and living from that. Yeah. So
I would love it if sometimes you say more of that when you say, take my power back. Because I know that it's so important, and I think a lot of people, it's so icky when we hear take your power back, because it's kind of like, what? but also we know how important it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't resist it, if that makes sense.
Sure. That makes
Because
good sense. Yeah.
the way that you explained it is so, to me, relatable and understandable. Whereas a lot of times, I think when we're around this kind of stuff, it's really lovely because so many other people are too, and then some people that aren't. It's like a woman that, talking to her about maybe working with her daughter, and she said to me, which crushed me for a moment, she said, my only concern might be that she doesn't understand how you think because of the words that I use. And I thought, you know, with all of this education that we have, one of the things that I thought I'm good at is being able to, you know, I used to have professors and lecturers and stuff, and they would quite clearly feel they had to elevate themselves to this place. And if you haven't studied it, then you don't know it. And I'm not going to spend the time teaching you something I spent 30 years to do.
Sure.
And I think sometimes, particularly in this time,
yes,
it might even be a lovely thing is to sort of have this series of lives, because I think going live right now is going to be really important for people's certainty to be
sure.
together, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Is kind of like a 101 of this without it being patronizing, but to be able to go, and maybe we could do that. It was like you could speak and I'll be the 5-year-old who goes, you know,
Yeah, babe.
Uncle Lou, what does that mean? You know?
Well, yes, sweetheart. I'm delighted to do that. If you want to do that, I'm thrilled
We
to do
could
that.
call it Uncle Lou, Ask Lou, you know?
Well, now,
it's so important what you're
yes,
saying.
yes.
Open. This is the kind of the way showers way.
Sure.
And yeah, a lot of people, I imagine, will come into this going, "Oh, I want to catch up.
Right.
And then they don't know they don't know what's going on, so they feel out of it and then get stuck. You know.
Sure. I'm happy to demystify anything that you think I can explain, because I've been learning this every day, you know, and
Exactly.
yeah, it's a joy. I mean, I think of the quote from Einstein who said, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old child, you really don't know what you're talking about, you know?
Exactly.
So it's keep it simple, stupid, you know, and
Exactly.
the easier, you know, it's, you know, people, so there's knowledge, there's understanding, and there's belief. Okay, is what my guy would say. So belief is of the mind. I believe in this, I don't believe in that. Oh, I don't like this person, or that was offensive. These are all our little beliefs up here. Okay, and that's where most of the world lives most of the time, is in our ego mind. Right now with crisis, we get thrown back. So we start to search our heart and our soul and go, why is this happening? And what can I do about this? And God, is there a purpose for this? And, you know, is everyone okay? And are we going to be okay? And is this the end of the world? Whatever. Okay. Understanding is the heart. And when we come to knowing is the core of ourself. Oh, I just know this is true. I know this will work. I know this person is trustworthy. I know this is what I want to do. That's the deepest part of ourself. So there's kind of this, you know, bringing things from the outside in through this filter, and through this filter. Okay. And then things from the inside out. Will she accept me if I ask her out? Will this be okay? Will this be understood? Will he be okay with this? Is this too much to ask for? You know, do they understand what I'm saying, etc. So, you know, you get what I'm saying. There's a filter inside out. There's a filter outside in. So again, in an emergency, you got to throw away the bullshit and get down to what is really important. And that's the gift of it, is, you know, the love that's being generated and beginning to be offered and put out in all of our relationships. You know, we're all looking at everything in our life going, is this helpful now? Is this an interference now? Is this, you know, support me and my friends and my family now or not? Love is in the midst of all of that, you know, and it's just to be spiritual is to not be embarrassed to talk about love or God or source or whatever, and understand, look, folks, it's always been about this. It's just that you were trapped up here in your little left brain, science and logic and, you know, the patriarchy and I know more than you do and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, now we've thrown that out the window. That's over now.
Yeah.
You know, so we're all learning how to swim together in these new waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's simple.
Exactly. It's funny you say that, because I just moved from California and I was unpacking and thought, oh gosh, that little bikini you're not going to need for a while. And I thought exactly that. I'm like, put it on, love, because you're going to be swimming like the best of them
Yes.
right now.
Yes. Well, a great way to learn to swim is to get thrown into the deep end. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, sweetheart, I just adore you and love you, and I'm grateful for you. Will we
Likewise.
leave everyone's smoking brain there for the moment?
Yes. Yes. Maybe we can go with my wow question another time.
Yes, I'm sure you'll have more.
Yeah.
I've no doubt about that, Poppy. I'm sure you'll have
And
more
both of
questions.
us. I'm not sure how much I actually did host then. However, it felt like a collective twosome doing nothing.
I think this was great, and I'm sure it's the start of many more, and I definitely gladly accept your invitation to keep doing this. And the original motivation here is if you come on to our group here at 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be answering people's questions and channeling my guides for you, and you can check out my Facebook page, Lightheart 2012, or you can go to Awaken Spirits Network, or you can go to loumartin.org. And let's hear how people can find you.
Yeah, so let's go a bit deeper with that, because
Right.
your 8 p.m. each day
Yeah.
is a closed group on Skype, right? So they press the link, they
Zoom.
make an investment payment for you
Yes,
in euros.
a suggested donation of €10 is put out.
Or more.
Yeah.
It's all up to everybody, right? You got $100, pay $100. It's very valuable. But just to say, it's a Zoom like this private. It's not going to be streaming live anywhere. It's just for the group, right?
Right. And we record it, and then I might actually ask people's permission to publish the group afterwards, because I'm thinking that it's very helpful. Because the other part of it is, this is me chatting with you, which is lovely, and then when I channel, then I get all sorts of new information and new ideas and perspective, and the people that come on and the questions that are asked really co-create that with us and with spirit. So that's the joy of it.
Yeah. But equally though, you do live streams. To say a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I do one-to-one
with your morning live streams, you do them,
yes,
right?
I do a morning prayer program Monday through Thursday, and I'll do a spirit talk a couple times a week as well. But there's this event over the weekend. The COVID global support group is doing stuff, and I might be on that with them as well. I was on there today. So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be many opportunities for us to put our heads and our hearts together and try to make some sense of what's happening and to cheer each other on.
Yeah. Hooray.
Okay.
Yes. And so for me, I have Academy for Self-Mastery, which is does what it says on the tin. Is we can add a link, but there's so many programs within one program. But essentially the punchline is I coach people with all of my different disciplines, 14 hours a month as group. There's lots of challenges, success principles, but it's psychotherapeutically led and based in theory, because that's where it all comes from, the subconscious, like we're talking about. That's not for the faint-hearted, obviously, because I'm very challenging. I'm not about like me. I'm about how do we get you in the quickest way to a place where you feel safe, secure, have the job you want, the partner you want, etc. You talk straight, because we've got enough BS in the world, and I don't play that game. So it's actually a lot of fun, wonderful people.
Of course.
At the moment, actually, we have a waiting group for people who may want to come and join Intro to Self-Mastery, which would be a much less content for people to just perhaps do one challenge a week and one, coaching live a week or something like that. But we'll see. If we get 50 people, it will run. If we don't, then we won't. And of course, people can come to me if they want a referral for, psychotherapy or psychiatry or something like that. Or I can do an assessment if that's useful for people, and work with a psychiatrist or a prison or whoever. I do that as a one session. And equally, I'm like you, live publicly though at 7 p.m. So you've got your Zoom in the group, which is private for people. Mine is publicly live, which is just to be there basically on the pages to say, you know, hey folks, you got a therapist on staff for a little bit of time, what should we talk about, kind of stuff. And
Brilliant. Brilliant.
and I was thinking about it and thought, I'm not going to put a cap on that at the moment, because I'll just sort of see, is it useful to people, in which case I'll keep doing it. And I kind of get the sense that's how you're going about what
Yes.
you're doing.
Yes,
Just,
sure. Yeah, I'm,
see.
you know, yeah, as we tried to earlier, sorry, that if we can put this on live, you know, and invite people for Q&A the next time we do this, that's great. You know,
Yeah.
We'll flow with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it may well be that we can put this as a watch party.
Sure, of course we can. Yeah, indeed. And we can put it on, I can put it onto my YouTube and send you the link for that as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good for us, Lou.
We did it. Thank you, sweetheart. Yes.
Pleasure, thank you.
You're
See
welcome.
you at night. In
Yes.
fact, see you in a couple of hours.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, sweetie. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.